now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gail Guayardo.
Our guest today on the Bloom Health Club lived undersea for 100 days in a mission combining education for kids, ocean conservation, research, and the study of the physiological and psychological effects of compression on the human body. I am so excited to welcome our friend, Tampa super scientist, Dr. Joseph Dituri, back to the Bloom Health Club. It is so great to see you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
And you're out with a new book, The Secrets in Depth. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's a factional book. Never actually happened, but a nice Italian boy from New York named Joe Camissa, not Joe Dituri, totally different. And he gets in trouble in the Navy and does some fun stuff. And, you know, it's a very, I don't liken myself to be Tom Clancy. I'm not that good of a writer, but something like that.
I love it. I love it. And if there's anything that this man can't do, he's also the king of research. In fact, I was trying to think back of when I met you, and I was actually prescribed by my doctor to become part of a research project that you were part of on ketosis. And that was just like one of the many, many, research projects that you've been a part of here in the Tampa Bay area, especially at the University of South Florida. And now you have a huge announcement that you're making.
Huge announcement. I just accepted the position as the Assistant Vice President of Veterans Clinical Research at the University of South Florida, where we're treating and helping up to 420 veterans for traumatic brain injury and PTSD. So we're doing great things.
Speaking of veterans, this particular podcast is being recorded on Veterans Day. So if you're listening to it down the line, we need to thank Dr. Joseph Dituri for your time in the military. Tell me about that. You had a pretty cool assignment.
I did. So 28 years of time, active duty service. It was great. It was 27 years, 8 months, 19 days, but who's counting? And that was me about a foot of hair ago, for crying out loud. And I was a special operations diver, so I got the opportunity to do some really cool stuff. I jumped out of planes. I was scuba diving. I was deep diving in a one atmosphere suit. So great things. I was lucky I stepped into the right lighting. So
super, super cool. I want to bring in my friend and colleague, Brody Waddell.
Howdy.
He is he's written articles about you on bloomtampabay.com. He's our digital reporter, producer, all things great. And you met Dr. Dituri back in the day when he first emerged after 100 days of living underwater. It's been a while since we've shared that story. Yeah, tell us more about that experience.
So having come out from undersea after 100 days, you do a lot of inward soul searching, right? You do a lot of looking in here, and maybe you don't like what you see. So you start changing things. And this is when I was like, oh my gosh, I start pulling the data. I start pulling the human physiology experiment stuff, the telomeres, all of my, inflammatory markers and so forth, the myokines, the cytokines. And I said, we could live to 110. We could pull this off. I mean, and it's real, no kidding. So the cognitive enhancements that I got were really great, and the life longevity stuff is pretty encouraging. Let's put it that way.
Nice.
I mean,
permanent.
I would definitely want to live, and you weigh in on this too, Brody. I would like to live to 110 if you could do it disease-free with all your faculties, living independent. I mean, how would you like that scenario?
I think the same way. I would want to be like youthful and feeling good and stuff like that. I'm so tired of all like the older people always telling me, be like, oh, well, you're young. It's okay to get beat up now. And it just ends up this way anyway. And I'm like, I literally don't want to end up like you. I'm not going to follow your advice. Like, it's kind of crazy how inevitable people feel about just falling apart.
Right. But if you just change the mindset overall, we were talking about this earlier, if you change your mindset overall and you go, I'm going to live this long, I'm going to be fruitful, I'm going to be energetic, and then keep walking down that road, you never know. The mind is a pretty powerful thing. So,
and let's talk about what you learned submerged and how you're taking that knowledge and that research, bringing it back here to earth with 2 feet planted firmly on the ground above water, because hyperbaric is something that I met you years ago, doing stories about this. Well, you've learned a lot about, compression and the body.
Sure. Sure. So what we find is that instantaneously while I was down there, I was doing EEGs the entire time. So EEGs and electroencephalogram, you hook up leads to your head and you're looking for coherence. That's how well the nodes talk to one another. And you're also looking for phase lag. That's that time between the connections, right? So if you can increase the coherence and decrease the phase lag, you are acting better. You are acting smarter. You are responding quicker. So and it turns out that there's a 9% increase in coherence and a 5% decrease in phase lag. So those are both great numbers. That's just hyperbaric medicine. And you don't have to go stay 100 days underwater like I did. You can just do this at a normal hyperbaric facility a couple of hours a day, every day for like 2-3 months. And boom, now you have, and the other thing that we found while I was down there was the increase in telomere length. You guys know what telomeres are, right?
Yeah.
Well, you've talked about it on Bloom, our globally syndicated show, but explain it to our audience today because the telomere is linked to our longevity.
Absolutely. So the telomeres are the end of the chromosome. So if you look at the very tip of the chromosome, the number of times that you can replicate that chromosome, mRNA, DNA transcription. So as you do it, you lose one. You do it, you lose one. Let's say you have 100 of them total. When you're done replicating this thing 100 times, that's it. That's cellular senescence. That is the end of life. So if you go, whoa, wait a minute, I can increase that by 17%. I can increase my life by 17%.
Wow.
Not going to prevent you from getting hit by a bus. It's not going to, but this is no kidding. It's called reverse transcriptase, and it is a known mechanism of action of hyperbaric medicine.
That is incredible. Now, you've done a lot of research on hyperbaric medicine, and there's a lot out there already showing that this could be a game changer when it comes to our health. What do you hope to discover when you embark on this new position at USF?
All right. So my overriding goal at the University of South Florida for me personally is to take indications that are currently off-label and bring them to on-label through scientific proof, because science wins over BS every time, right? So, but what works, works. And, I love it because RFK just came out with that edict saying hyperbaric oxygen therapy will be given to the masses and it'll be great. And I'm like, okay, great, but it's not going to cure our toenail fungus. So let's do the whole, science stuff first. So, I'll give you, for instance, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. It's a disease of inflammation. And if you can reduce the inflammation like we did while we were underwater, like we know is a mechanism of action of hyperbaric medicine, maybe we can help these people who have Crohn's. So, but we got to do the science behind it.
Inflammation is the gateway to so many diseases. I mean, and it's a problem for so many of us. Why are we living our lives so inflamed?
Right. It's systemic inflammatory response. It's because, we have this, like, Joe's opinion, we used to get chased by saber-toothed tigers, right? We used to have real fears in life. We used to have real threats. We don't have those anymore. The worst thing that happened to me is I didn't get enough likes on my Facebook or Instagram, right? So, oh, woe is me, horrible,
stressful.
Right? No, but you got to have some real threats in your life. This creates that process known as autophagy. It gets your body and the sirtuins activating and going, whoa. All that other junk, that's low, no big deal. This is real. So you threat, and then you stand down a little bit. That makes you live longer. It's what drove us in the very beginning. So it's what kept us living longer. So it's an interesting parallax, if you will.
So does that mean a cold plunge is in our future?
100%. Cold plunge, cold shock protein, a sauna, heat shock proteins. I mean, all of these things. Fasting, intermittent fasting, long duration fasting, water only fasting. You got to start playing with that. I mean, I'm 57 years old, for crying out. In 20 days, I'm 57 years old. But I mean, and I'm in the gym every morning.
Yeah, and we talked, if you are around Wednesday of this coming week, Dr. Dituri is on our Global Health and Wellness show, Bloom, that airs at 2 p.m. It's produced here at WFLA News Channel 8 in Tampa, Florida, and then distributed around the country and worldwide. And we talked a lot about living to 100 years old, which is far more feasible today. I mean, we're living longer, but here in this country, we're not healthy as we age. And so your whole mission in life is to help people age actively and without chronic disease.
Right. And that is the takeaway, right? Because nobody wants to live and be trapped inside your brain for years and years and years. That's just horrible. I need to be physically fit. I need to be mentally, have the acumen to do anything that I want to do, right? So, and there's nothing that says that we can't at this point. So the only limit we have is ourselves. So I just took that off the table and I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going softly into that good night.
Yeah.
I will rage.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So how did you get into this space? I mean, I know you've always been a scientist. I think it's really cool that after, you know, your stint in the military, which was a long time dedicated to our country, and we, again, so appreciate that. But it's like you came back and you keep reinventing yourself and finding new things to explore, just like you did, you know, as a military member under the sea. You're constantly exploring here on Earth.
Yeah, it's honest to God, it's finding your passion. So, I did the 28 years in the military and that was terrific, but it wasn't exactly my passion, right? So I stepped back and I looked inside and I tried to figure out where I was going and what I was doing. And I didn't know, you start things and you go back and you work for the federal government and you go, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, I'm done, right? So you have to reinvent yourself. But once you take the money off the table and you start finding the passion that drives you, all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to work, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's like, wow, I can do all this stuff. So it's like, what better effort to put into than I want to live to 110, So it's like, I can find all this stuff out. I can figure all this stuff out. I have the capacity at this point, so let's keep going. What do you do? And the answer is everything. I mean, we have that acronym, but that acronym is just a part. It's a start, right? It's all about your mindset. Where can you go? What can you do? You can go to the end of the universe. Go. Don't stop. Don't look back.
How did you get into hyperbaric medicine?
That seemed like a natural transition to me. I know I'm all over the place, but it seemed like a natural transition. 28 years of diving, right, in the military, and diving in hyperbaric medicine. Hyper means more than, baric means pressure, just like when you go underwater and you go diving. So hyperbaric medicine, it's what we use to treat divers with decompression sickness. So I kind of sort of knew a little bit about it. I've been a diver for lots and lots and lots of years. And, it seemed...
now, let's say the science keeps pointing us in the right direction when it comes to hyperbaric medicine. I mean, do you think there is a day when we can all have more access to this type of treatment? Because I've experienced it only because you were gracious enough to let me do that. And it was cool. I mean, you're basically just chilling out.
Right.
It's like being on a plane a little bit where you just have to clear your ears and then you're just resting, breathing in medical grade oxygen, watching TV, whatever you want to do in there. But it seems very niche now.
Right. It seems very niche. But remember, this type of therapy has been around since 1664. Almost 400 years, right? This is not a new science whatsoever. Now, what had happened is a bunch of snake oil salesmen kind of got in the very beginning and they made a bad name for it, right? So we got to find the mechanism of action so that we can take things from off-label and put them on label. Like you guys, what is Viagra used for?
The big blue boat.
Right. Get the blood flowing.
Yeah, get the blood.
Right. So we think it's erectile dysfunction, but that is an off-label use. It's on-label prescribed as a cardiac medicine.
Really?
It's
I did not know that.
Approved, right? FDA approved. That is the on-label is cardiac. Well, then we said, oh, look, it does this other side thing, which is great for people who have a problem. That's the off-label prescription. So doesn't mean that hyperbarics doesn't work because it's off-label for your particular autism, for instance, or any autoimmune disease or Crohn's or
Ozempic does
ulcerative
it
colitis,
too,
right?
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. So you think that eventually, once the science backs it, we'll be able to get more people access to this? Because again, you had the really cool chambers that people would go into, but there are different ways. I mean, there's different forms of hyperbaric medicine, correct?
Yeah. Now, I don't want to take this down too low, but I can tell you that diving scuba diving is a form of hyperbarics, right? Hyper means more than, baric means pressure. So you go underwater, you breathe air out of a tank. You are kind of sort of in hyperbarics. Every single diver you've ever talked to comes up from their dive and they go, wow, that was amazing. That was incredible. We treat PTSD with divers diving in countries not here, but other countries treat their traumatic brain injury sufferers and PTSD sufferers with scuba diving.
So how will the USF program work? I know you're excited because you're going to be able to help hundreds of people, and they will be veterans, or will they be active military? How does it work?
Veterans and active duty service members are allowed to sign up by basically just looking at a QR code, scanning it with their phone, boop, and then they fill out the paperwork. Once they fill out the paperwork, they get enrolled in the study. Now, once again, you don't have to be diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. What you have to do is answer a whole bunch of questionnaires from our people that'll call you, and you have to basically not pass the exam, if you will. You have to kind of sort of be marked as somebody with a traumatic brain injury, either mild to moderate, right? We don't want the severes at this point because we're not convinced that it's going to work yet. So when you come into the program, you have to be read in. Now, mind you, it's just me talking, but it's not just me here. There are almost 30 people in this study. I mean, there are PhDs in psychology, there are anesthesiologists, there are, radiologists, there are neurosurgeons, really, really, truly brilliant people. I'm just a guy that's one piece of this thing. So we're going to do all the testing, all the blood markers, urine, saliva, electrocardiograms, electroencephalograms, all the stuff that I did while I was underwater. We're doing all that and more while we treat these guys. And what we have to do is, because it's science, we have to do one group's going to be a placebo and the other group's going to get the actual treatment.
Right.
So we got to fake that a little bit. We got to fake the person who's getting the placebo because they have to feel the pop in their ears like you felt when you went underwater under pressure. So we have to fake that. But that's the way science is done, right? I mean, that's the standard of science right now.
Yeah. So is it just like basically you guys and a few other researchers? Like, are there hyperbaric clinics all over?
There are hyperbaric clinics all over the place. Now, I just closed mine down to take the job at the university,
Right.
but, there's at least 3 or 4 in the local Tampa area that you could go to, and they are coming more and more. The age of hyperbarics is upon us. I mean, now that, the general public sees it and sees the naturopathic cure. Look, oxygen doesn't truly cure anything, but it puts your body in the right position to help itself. And your body wants to be at homeostasis, which is cured. Your body does not want to be sick. You give your body the tools it needs to help it to heal itself.
What are your thoughts on this new trend of oxygen-assisted workouts, where people actually breathe in oxygen while they get their cardiovascular going? I mean, people are trying to turn to oxygen for all ways to heal.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that would help heal your recovery time.
Yeah.
That would be great. But what I'm interested in right now is the opposite way. So hypoxic interval training, right? So you decrease the amount of oxygen that's coming in. And what does your body do? What's the compensatory reaction? It makes more red blood cells. It's just like you train at altitude, right? This is why the football players go to Colorado to train. They make all these red blood cells. They come down here and they're like, I'm great. Right? So you have that extra boost of health, if you will, with the additional red blood cells. So that's the next thing we're going to try and figure out what's going on. That it's called HIF-1 alpha. They just won the Nobel Prize in 2019 for this. So we're starting to apply it to science, hypoxic inducing factor alpha, 1 alpha. And basically, if you upregulate HIF-1 alpha, you upregulate something called brain-derived neurotropic factor. So BDNF's the lawn seed for the brain, and if you can lawn seed your brain, you can grow synaptic pathways. Wait, what? Yes.
I have to ask you, are you just blown away by the fact that after you did this 100-day stint underwater and you've emerged from all of that you're actually applying everything that you learned into this tremendous study and that you're carrying it forward?
I am blessed to have, like I said, stumbled into the right lighting and found my passion. Like I said, I don't tell the university, but I would probably do this job for free because this is the gig that I've always wanted. This is I get to help veterans and do science and kind of push this agenda, if you will, of naturopathic cures. Look, man, I don't know what your problem is, but you do not have, if you can't sleep, you do not have a lunesta deficiency. If you're on an SSRI because you're depressed, you don't have that sort of a deficiency. So we have to change our drug model thought process to naturopathic cures. And there is no easy way to do this. Go to the gym. Go work out. Do the things that you got to do. There is no easy way around it. There's no simple pill that's going to fix everything. You got to do the work.
No doubt about it. Any final words before we sign off about, what can we do to help you move this project forward in the direction that you want to?
If you could, there's a flyer that has a QR code on the bottom, and if you could put it out to all the military veterans that you have, veterans and active duty service members, we'll actually monetize you to come as a veteran, to come into the study, and basically we'll try and take you in, we'll import you, we'll go through all the phases, and if we can get you in the study, we will help you. Now, here's one thing that came from the governor and the Speaker of the House. They said, regardless whether or not they're a member of the oxygen group or the placebo group, they're going to get the oxygen. So even when you're done, you'll then treat them or send them out to the nearest hyperbaric center where they will get treated. So they will all get treated. Now, that's above and beyond the science, but it's great because they get that cure. And it's not going to hurt them, and it may just help them. So we'll see.
And it's great. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Governor Ron DeSantis got behind this, Speaker of the House got behind this. I mean, all along the way, there are a lot of people cheering you and your team on, hoping for the best, because so many times our veterans, after serving our country, they come home and the suicide rates amongst, this group is horrible. I mean, the suffering in silence, because so many times they don't ask for the help that they need because they're always in a place of serving us and others.
Right. Because why? Because we were told when we were growing up, oh, suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah.
I'll give you something to cry about, right? I mean, these were things that we heard as we were growing up in the military, right? And we have to change our mindset, and it's okay to come talk to somebody. And please, if you're not getting help from me, get help from somebody. Please, guys and girls, don't just go without saying. Just say it to somebody. Somebody will reach out and help you in today's day and age. And if you can't find anybody, call me. Put my number up. I don't care. Call me. Just don't take the short way out.
All right. I know, Brody, you'll probably get something up on bloomtampabay.com. We will definitely get information for you on bloomtampabay.com. You can watch Dr. Dituri this coming Wednesday starting at 2 p.m. He is kicking off our show on how to live to 100 years old or 110, which is his goal. Thank you so much, my friend. It is always such an honor and a pleasure to see you.
No, pleasure's all mine. I really appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks so much. Until next time.
Cheers.